on the escalator at the airport. It is a whopping 4:30 in the morning. Here I come, Backyard 400. Can't wait. All right, YouTube world, I'm Matt the Camera Guy, and I am back from the Backyard 400. Oh my God, what an event, Travis Bell. Man, this thing presented by Celebrity Machines. Let's talk about the inaugural Backyard 400. So I'm going to basically just start at the beginning of me at the airport at 4 a.m. where you see this start. The trip down, it was not a bad trip. We ended up flying through Michigan, and then we ended up going from Michigan straight into Indy. Travis Bell, Celebrity Machines, took care of my whole trip. I mean, it was awesome. All I did was have to show up. So we ended up getting to Indy about 9:30 that morning, and Travis told me the night before that he had a surprise for me. Well, that surprise was me being a NASCAR guy. I've always told Travis, the last time I was there at PRI with him, I told him, I said, man, it's kind of a bucket list thing for a racer to actually get to see Indy cars at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And when I got there, Daniel Dillon and Travis Bell were there to pick me up, and we headed straight over to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What exactly are we doing here?
We're at the photo room, or is that what we're calling it?
The archive?
Yeah, of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the museum. And we're looking through, while we have time, for pictures of the number 99 corporate car of Indianapolis, and we found some things we've never seen before. So,
I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Woke up in South Carolina, and here we are.
Why not?
Why not? We're invited into the archives so we could start looking up the Travis Bell owned Corporate of America Indianapolis Inaugural Brickyard 400 car. And basically just find the stuff that's been stowed away for all those years. Even after I'd gotten there, I had no idea that they were putting on a tire test at Indy that day. And Travis didn't tell me. And it's, you'll see here, he walks out and he says, hey, race cars on the track.
I mean, there wasn't a space to stand.
Damn.
Everybody's out there and all.
There's a lot of people on pit road.
Must be. Well, got the starter in.
Start going on the track right now, Douglas.
The people of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway were great in the archive. I cannot remember that girl's name to save my life, but she invited us in her office, opened the window where we could see the cars and hear the cars. And that was really cool, and that is something that I will remember for a lifetime. Travis Bell and Daniel Dillon. That was not only getting to relive some of my NASCAR history, but getting to see the Indy cars at Indianapolis getting ready for the month of May for the Indy 500. That is a bucket list thing, and that's something I'll always cherish, and I appreciate you, Travis Bell, for that.
So I'm here at the Indy Motor Speedway with Travis Bell and Dan Dillon here for the Brickyard 400. We're at they're doing a tire test. The month of May's coming up, man. This is awesome, guys. Stay with me all weekend. A lot of stuff coming up. Right now, we're gonna finish watching the tire test. Fantastic.
After the tire test, we get back to the Travis Bell compound where the inaugural Backyard 400 will be taking place. And Daniel Dillon shows me a list about a mile long that needed to be done. And first thing on the list was get the pace car ready. So this is where I met Tony Tolbert for the second time. His Kart to me, by far, was the best well done body. He gets my vote for best appearing yard cart because this thing was awesome. And there are some great pics of him running in the heat races up on two wheels. I mean, this cat, he had a vision and it was executed. But Tony was the one that was one of the main guys with Daniel Dillon and Travis putting the lights on the pace car. And man, I'm going to tell you something about this pace car. This pace car was a cherry. It was an original, I think it was like a Chrysler LeBaron. I mean, it still had the tags and stuff on it from its original, like, assembly date. And it had never been touched. It had no oil in it, had never been cranked. I don't know where Travis Bell found all these things, but man, we had a slew of them, and we had the best time ever. And that pretty much took care of my day one. And as you'll see, Tony Tolbert took off in the pace car to make sure everything worked. And you can hear right there, the clutch sounds a little rough, and that will come into play. The clutch was actually changed after the heat races in the pace car. Sean Cothran took the clutch off of his sports car and put it on that one, and it worked flawless. And we had a pace car for the Inaugural Backyard 400, but that was a side note that a lot of people don't know. So my day two started about 2 a.m. when my roommate got to town for the week, Adam Valentine. So after breakfast, we went back to Travis's place, and we were just knocking out things on the list. Indy Dan had like a map drawn. That's one thing I want to brag on him about too, is he had a plan. That's one thing, Travis Bell, when you go to Indianapolis and you mess with these guys up there, that's one thing I love about these guys. These guys have a plan. And after breakfast, Indy Dan rolled out the plan. He showed me a map, and I ended up taking the drone up so he could see the parking lot and all, how he had everything roped off in the map, and he and I started laying everything out for that. He had the vision for it. Matt the camera guy here, and we are getting ready for the Backyard 400. Indy Dan and I have been getting the braking zones prepared, and the sponsors are starting to show up. Oh man, we're having a blast. All throughout the day, the sponsors started showing up, and one of mine and Daniel Dillon's task was to get the Jack Daniels tent up, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. We had to move it a few times, but we finally got her where she needed to go. And I mean, after that, I mean, we wanted to get some testing in before the sun went down. You know, here's where I want to talk about Adam Valentine some more. So he has this Indy cart he brought, and this thing, it looked pretty good on the truck. And he worked his tail off that day working on that cart to get it ready to practice that night. He found out in practice that the chain was coming off and something wasn't right. It just kept kicking the chain off. Ended up just getting his cart where he could start the heat race just to say he was in it. But Adam Valentine worked on everybody's cart that weekend. He didn't have to do what he did, but he made sure everybody except himself had their cart ready to go. And he worked on those things from the time he got to Indiana to the time he left with me at the airport at, hell, I don't know, what was it, Adam? 5 a.m. or something. It was crazy. It was a wild trip, and I loved it. But I think the main takeaway from day two was Travis Bell's Taj Mahal bathrooms. I have never been at a racetrack where the porta potties were air conditioned. They had music playing in them, and they had room where you could move around. They had a sink where you could wash your hands. I mean, it was crazy. It was just so A+ to that. That was the cherry on top to the Backyard 400, if anybody wanted to know. So one of the big fails of the weekend was my test session, because I had the cameras already set up on Spence's cart because I was going to follow him all weekend. because I knew Mr. Excitement, Mark Spence, was going to be one of the karts to follow, and he's coming fresh off of a Cannonball record, so congratulations to him. Well earned on the coast to coast to coast. I think he beat his time by like 9 hours and some change, maybe more than that. Hell, I don't know, but it was significant. Mark had a backyard 400 to worry about, and I needed to get that kart ready for him. So that's what we did. I went to test it, and as you see here, this is all the footage we have. Adam's chain's coming off in the frame to the left, and boom, that's all we have of my test session. But we did learn that we had a right rear issue and we had no brakes. So we tore it apart that night, and we had to find a wheel bearing for it. But during that test session, when I would go through turn 1, and it was the highest, to me, it was the highest speed of the racetrack, the car would get up on the left front going in the corner, and it just made the car real darty going in. And so we ended up tearing it down and seeing, well, the rear axle was bent and the hub was bent. So we go scrounging for a hub, and we have one coming the next day. So we had everything torn down, ready to go. And when the hub got there, we slap it on and send Spence out to test. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of the Inaugural Backyard 400. Seen through my eyes, Matt the Camera Guy. Stay tuned for next week. Next Thursday at 2 p.m., we'll drop part 2 of the Backyard 400. Stay tuned, folks. I love you. Y'all be safe out there. I'm Matt the Camera Guy, and we'll see you next week.